already seen in some of our examples when we're getting into some of these web applications is that when we create HTML, sometimes we want to just change one small piece of it for each page that we present. Or sometimes, based on the parameters, we want to show one particular thing. And this is going to be an issue as we start to duplicate HTML content over and over again. When I started building web pages, you generally were building them out of HTML, and you might have to use some type of editor so that you could easily duplicate some of that content, so that it didn't have to be so many places in your site. But there are some ways we can handle this in Flask. So if we look at our HTML examples before, one thing that we could look at is this common navigation. So, these pages with common elements where we have this navigation and we have all these links, that's going to get to be kind of a challenge to maintain. If we add another link, now we have to go back to all of our pages and make sure that they're all consistent, and every time we do that, every time we change something, every time we modify something, we now, as our site grows, have to add it another and another and another place. So this is going to be a little bit frustrating to handle, but fortunately, and you can see it's going to get tedious. Like it's just going to be, nobody wants to get into coding so that they can update HTML navigation headers over and over again. But fortunately, we have this facility called templates, and templates allow you to create HTML content dynamically without having to build all of that Python code. So you can continue to put the HTML strings in your Python code, but even that is not really, it's kind of clumsy, just inserting a parameterized string into each one of those. And that's going to get more and more complex the more parameterization or the more difficult things you might want to do there. So templates allow you to generate HTML dynamically, and we can do that as we iterate over lists. We can do that to conditionally display some content. We can show variables from our Python in it, and we can actually create entire templated sites. So Flask templates use these curly brace %sign notations to put in different elements, different pieces. We can create different blocks so that we can, kind of highlight different spaces. We can actually replace the blocks using some of other templates. But these are hidden from the user. So when the HTML actually gets sent to the user, all of these red areas here, all of the curly brace %sign block title, all of this actually is evaluated at the server. So the HTML that we actually send will say title, and then it'll have some kind of title in it, and then your closing element here, and then we'll have a list of list items now instead of the for user and users. So all of the code that's inside of these, it's executed on the server, and we actually get the output that is sent to the HTML. So the user won't really ever know that there's a template in use. As far as the user is concerned, the page is going to look just like any other page. But when we execute this on the server, this will allow us to sort of iterate. It'll allow us to show sections of a page, selectively, so that we can be a little bit more direct in the way that we're building our HTML code, but also a little bit more flexible without having to go into the detail of using Python or another language. So blocks allow you to kind of create this space that will be replaced later. We have for loops that can be used to iterate over objects or lists. We can show object properties in the HTML very simply. And we also can build sort of a templated site by using a base template. Here we have blocks that we'll replace later, and this is kind of going to be the entire the body of our HTML, the structure of our HTML, and our header, our tags, our elements. These are often going to be very, very similar. So here we just say we're going to insert a different header, and we're going to insert different content in each one of these pages. Now we can create another template, and you can see this one is extends base HTML. So we start with what we have here, but we're going to replace the values for the header and the content blocks. So this is the header. If somebody were access my template.html, what they'd actually see is HTML body header. This is the header area for the page. Close the header element section, and then this is the main area for the page. Close the section element, close the body element, close the HTML element. So this is going to allow us to take all of that navigation and maybe duplicate that over the site. But when we have content on the page, we can handle that a little bit more effectively, a little more dynamically, so that we don't have to have that navigation space repeated in 22 different files. We can just have that in one place. So it allows us to build sort of a common and consistent structure for our page, while allowing some of that dynamic content to change based on what we need. So we have a couple of examples. We'll go through those in the next few videos. They might be a little bit easier to understand once we see them in action. So we'll walk through each one of these, show you exactly step by step how we can use these templates, and you can start using them in your own applications. Thanks for watching.